Chapter 239. What did you say? Emperor of Tianyu finally steadied himself with the help of his servants. He didn't care about his image as an emperor anymore and rushed to the expert, grabbing him by the collar and lifting him up. Say that again? Emperor Tianyu's expression was ferocious, his eyes filled with disbelief. The royal treasury had been emptied? How was that possible? That was impossible. That was the treasury of Tianyu's royal family for 1,000 years. All the treasures of Tianyu's royal family were in that treasury. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the treasury was the lifeline of Tianyu's royal family and Yuan clan. With that treasury, even if Tianyu's empire was destroyed, Yuan clan could rise again and return to the peak of the empire. But now, they said that the treasury was gone? Had it been emptied? Nonsense. The treasury was full of traps and traps. There were also countless formations. Let's not talk about that. The treasury was thousands of square meters. How could such a big place be emptied out just like that? Veins popped out on Emperor of Tianyu's forehead. He didn't believe it at all. The reason why he was so calm when he heard that someone broke into the treasury was because he knew that the intruder wouldn't lose anything. What could a mere thief steal? It would be amazing if he could sneak in. But now, the content of this expert's report was a heavy blow to him. Your Majesty. It's true. The expert from Tianyu's royal family cried as he kowtowed with all his might. Not just the outer treasury, the inner treasury's countless treasures, resources, and pills are all gone. Our royal family's 1,000 years of treasures are all gone. Your Majesty. The expert from Tianyu's royal family cried out. They were also shocked when they rushed into the treasury. Who would have thought that a mere thief could empty their royal family's 1,000 years of treasures? No one knew how the thief did it. When they entered, the entire royal treasury was shiny and clean. It was so clean that they almost blinded their eyes. On the spot, a few of the martial emperors fainted. He still hasn't woken up yet. Impossible. This is impossible. Tianyu Emperor loosened his grip and kicked the expert to the side before running towards the treasury. Your Majesty. A group of people yelled and followed behind him. Emperor Tianyu rushed to the royal treasury with a ferocious expression and rushed into the huge treasury. When he saw the empty treasury hall, Emperor Tianyu trembled, just like the fallen leaves in the autumn wind. In the next second he screamed out in pain and fell straight to the ground. Your Majesty. A group of experts from Tianyu's royal family hurried over. Some of them were supporting him while others were pinching his philtrum. It took a long time before Emperor Tianyu woke up. The moment he woke up, even someone as calm as Emperor Tianyu spat out a mouthful of blood. Investigate. He screamed hysterically. Chapter 240. Sky Mirror Secret Technique was a secret technique unique to Tianyu's royal family. This secret technique, combined with the royal family's own inherited cultivation method, could allow one to track the other party's identity through a trace of aura. This was a secret of Tianyu's royal family. Very few people knew about it. At the same time, it was rarely used. Because it consumed too much energy, only martial emperors could use it. Most of the Tianyu royal family's martial emperors were in seclusion in order to break through. They couldn't be disturbed. Under normal circumstances, Emperor Tianyu wouldn't use this method, nor would he alert the martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family. But this time it wasn't normal. What was lost was the royal treasury of Tianyu's royal family. Their royal family's 1,000 years of treasures. It was their lifeline to rise again in the future. 1,000 years of building a country, 1,000 years of treasures. The loss of the royal treasury was a heart-wrenching pain to Tianyu's royal family. Not only that, didn't they need to find all their treasures? Did they have to spend another 1,000 years to find all their treasures? Who knew if Tianyu Empire would still be around by then? No. They had to find the treasury. That little thief must also be caught. Emperor Tianyu spat out blood as he ordered. Soon, the martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family were alerted. Your Majesty, don't worry. We'll use Sky Mirror Secret Technique immediately. That thief won't be able to escape. Hearing that the royal treasury was stolen, the martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family were very cautious. At the same time they were furious. Swoosh. In the treasury, a martial emperor stood in front of the door that was destroyed by a punch. He raised his hand and grabbed in the air. Instantly the air currents in the room surged. Countless auras stirred in the air. In the next second, the martial emperor clenched his hand. A trace of aura was grasped in his hand. Activate secret technique. Seeing his action, the other martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family raised their hands and slapped out a rune in the air. Those runes flew into the air and connected to each other, forming a mirror-like formation. Sky Mirror Secret Technique. Whoosh. The martial emperor-level powerhouse raised his hand. In an instant, the wisp of aura left his hand and swept into the center of the heavenly mirror secret skill. The martial emperors from the royal family of Tianyu were red in the face. Their chi was being sucked into the formation. The ripples of the water mirror kept spinning. A faintly discernible silhouette appeared from within. It was a red figure standing in front of the door of the secret room and punching out. That's right. That little thief is wearing a red coat. One of the imperial family's experts beside Emperor Tianyu shouted when he saw the faint red figure. They were led around Sky Universe Imperial City by Luo Qingtong and had a deep impression of this red dress. However, it was nighttime and the thief's face was covered by a cloth, so it was impossible to see his face clearly. Now, under the Heavenly Mirror Secret Technique, let's see how that little thief can hide his appearance. When they catch that little thief, they will skin him alive and make him suffer a fate worse than death. Emperor Tianyu gritted his teeth as he stared at the figure of the young man slowly appearing from the Heavenly Mirror Secret Technique. Chapter 241. Rumble. That loud sound seemed to have come from the horizon. It was like a thunderclap rumbling in the air. In an instant, it was above the royal treasury. Bang! Before Emperor Tianyu and the others could react to what was going on, with a boom, the entire roof of the royal treasury exploded in an instant. An incomparably majestic force came crashing down. In an instant, countless bricks and mud flew everywhere. Ah! Emperor Tianyu and the rest were instantly sent flying. The martial emperors who were using the Sky Mirror Secret Technique to reveal Luo Qingtong's appearance spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground with a thud. They were instantly heavily injured. Sage Realm Expert. A martial emperor-level expert, who was slightly injured, stared in shock at the vast force that had instantly sent the entire royal treasury flying. His eyes instantly widened as he cried out hysterically. Sage Realm Expert. Such a terrifying heaven and earth energy could only be possessed by an expert who had reached the Saint Realm and had transcended the mortal world. These powerhouses who had already cultivated to the martial emperor realm were well aware of the vastness of the power of heaven and earth. At the same time, they were filled with respect and fear towards the expert who did this. Sage Realm Expert. And not just any ordinary Sage Realm Expert. So strong. This wave of energy came directly from afar and blew up the entire royal treasury, but they didn't notice it at all. What kind of terrifying control was this? Just as the martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family were in shock and fear, a cold voice suddenly rang in their ears. You are not allowed to investigate the royal treasury. Otherwise you will be killed. The two words killed were incomparably cold and ruthless, filled with killing intent. Everyone couldn't help but shudder when they heard it. Terrifying. It was really too terrifying. The royal family of Tianyu didn't doubt that if they said no, the entire royal family of Tianyu would be wiped out in an instant. This person's strength was simply too strong. Emperor Tianyu and the rest trembled. Under the pressure of this force they couldn't even say a word. They could only nod their heads desperately. Compared to his life and the continuation of Tianyu's royal family, the royal treasury was nothing. Even if the other party asked them to hand over the entire Tianyu Empire, they could only offer it with both hands respectfully. This kind of power was enough to pierce through the heavens and earth. Only the four great sacred dynasties had such an expert. Although the Tianyu Empire was an emperor-level superpower in the outside world, in front of the four holy dynasties, it wasn't even worth mentioning. Not to mention such an expert. However, Emperor Tianyu and the others couldn't figure out why such an expert would be interested in the imperial treasury of the Tianyu Empire. With the other party's strength, what kind of treasure could he not have? However, there were many eccentricities in this world. Perhaps they had met an expert who liked to snatch other people's treasures? Thinking like this, Emperor Tianyu and the others could only accept their bad luck. While Emperor Tianyu and the others were scared out of their wits, on a mountain peak not far from Emperor Tianyu, Yi Qianxian flicked his sleeve and withdrew his power. Let's go, he said indifferently. Yes, master. Bei Qing and Feng Yu hurriedly responded. They didn't expect that master would take a detour to Tianyu Empire just to cover the evil doctor's aura. Master cared too much about the evil doctor, didn't he? They didn't know if the evil doctor could sense master's good intentions. Achoo. Achoo. Chapter 242. Strange, who's scolding me? Luo Qingtong stopped and rubbed her nose. Then she thought of something and her lips twitched. It can't be that man, right? Thinking of Yi Qianxian, Luo Qingtong had a headache. Why is that man so difficult to deal with? He's still haunting me. Luo Qingtong never imagined that she would run into that evildoer when she suddenly wanted to go to the Tianyu Empire to teach the Tianyu Empire's imperial family a lesson. What kind of ill-fated fate did she have to run into that man again and again? I'm drunk. God, how did I offend you? Tell me. I'll change. As long as you don't let that man run into me again. If you want me to call you master, I'll even offer you longevity incense every day. Sigh. I'm so unlucky. If she knew this would happen, she wouldn't have come to the Tianyu Empire. Anyway, she would have plenty of chances to teach the Tianyu Empire's imperial family a lesson. Why did she have to come when that man was here? That was great. Not only was she caught, but she was also trapped with such a thing. Luo Qingtong gloomily looked at the ring finger of her left hand. There, a ring of exquisite craftsmanship was quietly being worn on her slender and beautiful finger. The 9 phoenixes on the ring were so beautiful and lifelike, as if they would spread their wings and fly out at any time. Luo Qingtong looked at the workmanship of the ring. It was even better than the trash that little pig gave her. After all, the trash that little pig took out was made by that old man Tian Mingzi. As the owner of the Immortal Slayer Palace, the storage rings that he refined were definitely not ordinary. Even if they were trash, they would definitely be of high quality. The ring that this man put on her finger was not inferior to his. It could be seen that this ring's quality was not low either. Really? It's just a tracking device. Why did he make it so flashy? If I didn't know better, I would think that he's interested in me. And he even put it in such a place. If she didn't know that the ancient people didn't know that putting a ring in such a place represented a proposal, Luo Qingtong would have misunderstood. But, what was the meaning of the kiss she gave him at the end? Luo Qingtong was almost intoxicated by it. Not only was that man powerful and handsome, but he was also a fast learner. The taste of that kiss was simply too good. Luo Qingtong was almost tempted by such a man. In fact, Luo Qingtong really liked Yi Qianxian. Such a strong and handsome man was really her cup of tea. Luo Qingtong had seen countless handsome men in the 24th century, but she was not interested in men who were weaker than her. Moreover, she was the strongest ocular sorcerer in the special ability realm. Who knew how many people were after her? If a man who was too weak stayed by her side, it would only become a weakness for others to capture and plot against her. Therefore, no matter how much Luo Qingtong admired men, she had never been moved by any man. She was very clear about what she wanted, and she knew that she would never become someone's puppet or vassal. But Yi Qianxian, that man, he was too strong. He was so strong that Luo Qingtong didn't know where his limit was, and she didn't know how she could control him. After so many years of being on the run, Luo Qingtong had developed an extremely insecure character. A man that she couldn't control was as dangerous as a ticking time bomb. Luo Qingtong didn't know when she would be blown to pieces. Once she fell in love with such a man, she would be consigned to eternal damnation. Forget it, it's better to stay away from him. Chapter 243. Come out. Luo Qingtong automatically gave Little Pig a name. She didn't care if the name didn't match its high and mighty identity as an ancient divine pig. In fact, Luo Qingtong suspected that this pig was fooling her. Looking at it, it didn't have the slightest demeanor of an ancient divine beast. What are you doing? Little Pig crawled out of her sleeve with weak legs. However, before it could crawl out, Luo Qingtong lifted it up. Do you have a way to block the detection of this ring and prevent that man from sensing it? Luo Qingtong firmly believed that this ring was a tracking device. In fact, this ring could indeed sense Yi Qianxian's Shifang dragon ring. After all, the Dragon Phoenix Emperor rings were a pair. Otherwise, how could Yi Qianxian let Luo Qingtong go so easily? There's no way. This ring has already absorbed your blood essence. If I'm not wrong, that man should have a ring similar to yours. It can sense your aura. Little Pig had stayed in the Immortal Slayer Palace for a long time. Naturally, it knew some things about refining. This ring's level was obviously very high. If it was a little lower, it might have a way. But now it could only shake its head. Is there really no way at all? Luo Qingtong furrowed her brows. She really didn't want to meet that man again. The feeling of not being able to control her own body and being held in the palm of someone else's hand wasn't pleasant at all. As a supreme ocular technique master, Luo Qingtong had never felt so helpless before. But that man, she had no way to deal with him. Most importantly, Luo Qingtong was afraid that if this continued, she would really be tempted. Yi Qianxian was very suitable for her to choose a partner in all aspects. The feeling of not being able to pounce on the man she liked was too vexing. No, she must stay away from that man. Otherwise, what if she accidentally made a big mistake? If it was back on Earth, she would just pounce on such a man. Anyway, she was alone in this world. She wasn't afraid of his revenge. At most, he would just run away. But now, thinking of grandfather Luo Qingtong had scruples in her heart. It was rare for her to have someone she wanted to protect, so she didn't want to lose them again. That man was too dangerous, she couldn't take the risk. He couldn't pin his hopes on the possibility that he would show mercy to him. Who knew if he had changed his mind on the spur of the moment? Thinking about it, Luo Qingtong stared at the ring on her hand. Her eyes flashed with a bloody light. She wanted to use her eye technique to analyze the ring and find a way to take it off. But just as her ocular technique was activated, it hit a wall. Luo Qingtong looked at the layer of power lingering around the ring in annoyance. It was the layer of power that the man had placed on it. She couldn't pry into the ring and analyze it. Just like how she couldn't see the man's face clearly before. The heavens wanted her dead. Luo Qingtong scratched the wall in her heart. That man even knew that she had an eye technique. Was there a need to be so cautious? She glared at the ring on her hand. She was so angry. If she knew this would happen, she wouldn't have exposed so much to save that man. But in the end, he returned it all to her. What kind of sin did she commit to sacrifice herself for others? In the end, she ended up trapping herself. On the other hand, Little Pig couldn't help but ask when he saw her trying to find a way to take off the 9 Phoenix ring, "I don't think that man has any bad intentions towards you. Why do you have to avoid him?" That man even warned him for this woman. Not only that, the ring's level looked so high. It didn't look like it would harm this woman. Chapter 244. You don't understand. Luo Qingtong didn't even raise her head as she continued to study the 9 Phoenix ring on her finger. A tiger cub and a wolf king met and was spared. Do you think you'll be so lucky the next time you meet? Moreover, a person's fate should be in their own hands and not in the hands of others. I want to be a hunter, but I don't want to be someone else's prey. Especially the prey of an uncontrollable man. As Luo Qingtong spoke, a faint light flashed through her eyes. Luo Qingtong knew very well how important a stable growth period was to a strong person. She had grown from nothing to a world-renowned supreme ocular sorcerer. Before she matured, she didn't want to meet that dangerous man for the time being. As for after she matured, it would be her turn to hunt him down. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's lips curled into a wicked smile. I didn't expect you to have such thoughts. Little Pig looked at Luo Qingtong in amazement. This woman is different from the rest. That man is so strong, yet she doesn't have any thoughts of attaching herself to him. But what about being a hunter and a prey? Did she misunderstand something? Little Pig thought about the scene between Yi Qianxian and Luo Qingtong. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't look like a hunter versus a prey. Moreover, is there a prey as arrogant as this woman? Little Pig felt very complicated. Before he could speak, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly sounded. Wait. What did you just say? I didn't expect a woman like you to have such thoughts. Little Pig repeated with a baffled expression. What is this woman up to now? Not this. That was the first sentence. You said that this ring absorbed my essence blood so that man could sense my aura through another ring that was similar to it? That's right. Little Pig was even more baffled now. What's wrong? Is there a problem with my words? There's no problem. Very good. Very good. Luo Qingtong smiled sweetly and recklessly. It was indescribably enchanting. You've helped me a lot. She knew how to deal with that man. She hoped that man wouldn't be too surprised when he found her. Come here. Luo Qingtong hooked her finger at Little Pig. The latter squatted on her shoulder and looked at her smiling face. She felt a chill run down her spine. She subconsciously wanted to run away, but Luo Qingtong grabbed her tail and pulled her back. All right, I won't do anything to you. Give me a few more of your junk. What do you want now? Whenever Little Pig saw Luo Qingtong smile, he knew something was wrong. He felt that this woman was up to something again. You don't have to worry about that. Just take it out. Luo Qingtong grabbed Little Pig and shook him violently. Little Pig felt dizzy from her shaking and quickly took out a few scraps. The corner of Little Pig's mouth twitched when he saw Luo Qingtong holding Tian Mingzi's ruined storage ring. She pricked her finger and dripped her blood on it. You can't be thinking that these scraps will resonate with that man's ring after you drip your blood on them, right? Is there something wrong with this woman's brain? Even if these scraps were smeared with her blood, they wouldn't be the ring on her finger. The fluctuation of spiritual energy on them is different. How can they resonate with that man's ring? Chapter 245. You. Little Pig's beady eyes widened as he watched Luo Qingtong's actions. The young girl held the trash in one hand and covered the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring with her other hand. Little Pig didn't know what she did, but in an instant the spiritual energy fluctuation on the trash changed. It became exactly the same as the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring. Holy sh*t. Little Pig was shocked. He stomped his 4 hooves and jumped in front of Luo Qingtong in an instant. He raised his front hooves and grabbed at the trash. After Luo Qingtong finished transforming the trash, she let go of her hand and let Little Pig grab it. You. Woman, how did you do it? Little Pig probed the trash with his spiritual energy and found that it was still the same trash. However, the spiritual energy fluctuation on it had changed into the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring. Holy sh*t. This woman is simply godly. She can do this. How did she do it? No matter if it was a spiritual tool or an elixir, they all had their own unique spiritual energy fluctuation. This was determined by the formula they used to refine them. It was just like a cultivator's own spiritual energy fluctuation. It couldn't be changed. However, Luo Qingtong forcibly changed the spiritual energy fluctuation on this trash. It was as if a cultivator who cultivated a fire attribute cultivation method had the aura of ice attribute. It was so unbelievable. Little Pig felt that ever since he recognized Luo Qingtong as his master, he had been suffering from inhumane blows every moment. Is this woman still human? Is there anyone as abnormal as her? It's just a little trick, Luo Qingtong said as she quickly changed the spiritual energy fluctuation on the other trash. This kind of spiritual energy fluctuation was directly changed by her according to the aura fluctuation on the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring. The spiritual energy fluctuation was naturally emitted. That man's strength couldn't block it. Luo Qingtong used her pupil technique to record it. Then he followed the instructions and made some changes to those useless rings. Didn't that man put a tracker on me? I can't take it off, right? He won't let me use my pupil technique to decipher it, right? Let's see how he can find me after I make a few more. In addition to changing the spiritual energy fluctuation on the trash, Luo Qingtong also picked a trash and covered it with the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring in her hand. This way it would be foolproof. She didn't believe that man could still find her after changing the fake and the real one. If that really happened, she could only admit that she was unlucky. God wanted him to find her. What could she do? You're awesome. You're awesome. Little Pig was speechless after hearing her words. Does this woman know how shocking what she's doing right now? No one could change the spirit chi inside a spirit artifact like she could. That was equivalent to one person suddenly transforming into another person. This was something that not even a weapon refining grandmaster could do. What kind of woman is this woman? Luo Qingtong quickly changed the spirit energy fluctuations of the few useless rings. She tossed the fake 9 Nether Phoenix rings in her hand and stood up. Go. Let's go. While we're at it. Along the way, let's give that man some surprises. Luo Qingtong said with her lips slightly curled up. She had an indescribably evil and wanton aura. Just as she began to modify the waste products on the Atlas spirit vessel, Yi Qianren suddenly sensed the aura of the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring. He didn't expect that the Sage Realm aura around that woman would fade away so quickly. Just as Yi Qianren was thinking about whether or not he should go back and capture that woman, suddenly with a few shwa 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 sounds, a few identical auras appeared in his senses. That woman. Chapter 246. Pa. On the Atlas flying ship, Bei Qing and Feng Yu had yet to react to Yi Qianxian's change in aura. In an instant, they saw their master break the armrest of the throne. That woman. Why can't she be more obedient? Yi Qianxian was really furious. That woman was like a runaway horse the moment he let go of her. She ran off without a trace in an instant. Even the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring couldn't trap her. Could she be any more powerful? This was Yi Qianxian's first time meeting a woman like Luo Qingtong. She clearly said that she admired him and liked him. In the end, he gave her a chance to get close to him and was willing to let her stay by his side. However, she ran away faster than a rabbit. That was fine. If she ran away, then so be it. He could just catch her again. However, this woman was as slippery as a loach. She ran away no matter how he caught her. There were hundreds of thousands of ways to escape, and she used all kinds of tricks to escape. In order to escape, she didn't even care about her dignity. Yi Qianxian had really never met such a treacherous, cunning, evil, and unbridled woman. In the past, which woman didn't pounce on him the moment they saw him? However, this woman avoided him like the plague. However, in addition to his anger, Yi Qianxian also felt a faint sense of pride in his heart. The feeling of meeting his match and the woman he fancied wasn't as simple as he imagined caused the anger in his heart to dissipate slightly. Humph, let's see how long you can run away for. That woman had many tricks up her sleeves, which meant that she wouldn't get into trouble easily. Thinking of this, Yi Qianxian felt a lot more comfortable. As for her escape, he would settle the score with her after he returned and got the 10-directional dragon ring. Right now, the 10-directional dragon ring wasn't with him, so its senses weren't so accurate. Moreover, it was time to teach those people a lesson. Thinking that if it weren't for the Supreme Assassin Pavilion, he might not have let that woman go, Yi Qianxian's eyes turned cold. Master? Seeing Yi Qianxian stand up, the aura around him fluctuated a few times before finally returning to normal. Bei Qing and Feng Yu immediately mustered up their courage and asked, "Oh my God, what did the evil doctor do? Why was Master so angry? But didn't Master put the 9 Phoenix ring on the evil doctor? That was a pair with her Master's Shifang dragon ring. Logically speaking, the evil doctor would not be able to escape. Could it be that the heretic physician was so powerful that he could even block the Dragon Phoenix Imperial Ring's senses? How could this be? This was absolutely impossible. Others might not know the origin of the Dragon Phoenix Emperor Ring, but Bei Qing Fengyu knew it very well. Therefore she refused to believe it. But what his master had just said clearly meant that the evil doctor had escaped his control again. Every time the evil doctor ran away, Master would be so angry. So, why is the evil doctor so good at running? Bei Qing and Feng Yu's lips twitched. They really didn't know how to evaluate Luo Qingtong. She was really the most demonic and abnormal woman they had ever seen. In this world, only their master could be compared to her. It's fine. Yi Qianxian's anger had almost subsided by now. He would let that woman run away for a while longer. When he came back, he would see where she could escape to. Tell the Black Field to speed up the search of the portraits I gave you. Regardless of whether you are a man or a woman, report it immediately. The man said in a low voice. Yes, master. Hearing this, Bei Qing and Feng Yu immediately knew that the evil doctor had really run away. But why was their master not angry anymore? Both of them felt incredulous, but they didn't dare to ask. Ever since they met the evil doctor, their master's thoughts had become more and more unpredictable. Now they couldn't even guess. Chapter 247. Why do you think that woman keeps running away? The man's voice was cold, without a trace of anger. I'm willing to let her stay by my side. I don't think she's weak and I'm willing to protect her. Why does she keep running away? He had great power and was very powerful, but he had never liked any woman. He didn't know how it felt to like someone. But he was willing to protect that woman. He didn't want to kill her no matter how much she disobeyed him. Yi Qianxian thought that he should like that woman. But he was willing to give in for that woman. He didn't care about how she had offended him in the past. Why does she keep trying to run away? She was like a mouse that had seen a cat. Bei Qing and Feng Yu were stunned by his question. Feng Yu was still okay. She recovered after a while. Bei Qing, who was a simple-minded person, was still looking at her master. She couldn't wrap her head around it for a long time. Oh my God. Is this really my master? Is this really my master who is cold, heartless and dignified? Bei Qing looked at her master, who had never cared about anything and was always cold and murderous. He was like a god in the 9th heaven. He was untouchable. Now, he was frowning and questioning her with a trace of doubt in his eyes. Bei Qing almost pinched his own thigh to see if he was dreaming. Oh my God. This is too unreal. Maybe his shock was too obvious, or maybe his attitude made Yi Qianxian very unhappy. The man's cold eyes swept over him coldly. I'm asking you a question. What? Oh. Bei Qing suddenly quivered when his master's cold eyes swept over him. He quickly came back to his senses. Actually, that, master, I think, maybe, the evil doctor, she doesn't know what you're thinking. Bei Qing, whose nerves were thicker than his brain, had a strong sense of crisis for the first time when he saw his master's dark expression. He answered carefully while looking at his master's face. He was afraid that if he said the wrong thing, he would be swept away by his master's sleeve. Impossible. Yi Qianxian frowned. I told her my name and even allowed her to drink with me at the same table. Not only that, I even let her touch me. Anyone who touched him without permission was already dead. That woman was the only exception. I've shown mercy again and again and even gave you the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring. Isn't that enough to show my intentions? Yi Qianxian frowned and looked at Bei Qing with displeasure. If this didn't count as telling that woman his thoughts, then what did? Oh, master. Bei Qing was frightened by her master's stare. How was he going to explain this to his master? The demonic doctor probably didn't know that this meant that he liked her. Thinking about how his master had been trying to catch the evil doctor ever since he came back from the Nine Magi Mountain, anyone would think that his master was seeking revenge. Moreover, these people knew that the master said these things for the sake of the evil doctor, but she probably didn't know about the evil doctor. She didn't know his master. Just as Bei Qing was about to cry, Feng Yu spoke up and rescued him from the abyss of suffering. Cough. Master, I'm afraid that the evil doctor doesn't know that you treat her differently. You didn't tell her that you like her, right? What she was trying to say was, Master, did you not confess to her? Chapter 248. Indeed, he didn't tell that woman that he liked her. But couldn't that woman see for herself? Moreover, he was a dignified underworld lord. How could he talk about such matters of love? Moreover, he liked her? It was clearly that woman who liked him first. That was why he gave her a chance. Yi Chenxian was very uneasy. He remained silent with a cold face. Feng Yu, on the other hand, knew that he had guessed correctly when he saw his master's reaction. Cough. Master, the demonic doctor's temperament is very different from others. I'm afraid she doesn't want her life to be controlled by others. You didn't express your feelings before. In the demonic doctor's eyes, I'm afraid you want to capture her for revenge. It's understandable that you want to escape. He advised tactfully. His master's thinking was too simple. He had tried every possible means to capture the demonic doctor. Now that he had changed his mind, the demonic doctor didn't know. She had angered his master again and again. Of course she wanted to escape. As for the 9 Phoenix ring, Feng Yu was very suspicious that Luo Qingtong might have used it as a means for Yi Chenxian to capture her. That's why she tried her best to escape. Her master had been wrongly blamed for this. It had to be said that Feng Yu had guessed the truth to a certain extent. Yi Chenxian snorted coldly and didn't say anything. However, he felt much better knowing that the woman wasn't deliberately avoiding him. Let's go. He closed his eyes and didn't say anything else. Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others didn't dare to disturb his rest. They dutifully guarded him. At the same time, Luo Qingtong was also rushing towards Dongli Kingdom. Along the way, she deliberately took some detours and spread the waste products that she had modified in her hands. In those places there were brothels, restaurants, rich families and commoners. Luo Qingtong didn't forget to mischievously throw a few of them in places with strong smells. Especially those brothels and taverns. Imagining the expression that man would have when he found her, Luo Qingtong couldn't help but laugh. After doing all this, she took Little Pig with her and prepared to dispose of the things in Tianyu's royal treasury. That was not a good thing. On the contrary, it was very troublesome. Tianyu's royal family's 1,000-year heritage wasn't something that could be taken so easily. Even though Luo Qingtong had gotten it, she still had to be wary of the royal family of Tianyu having any means to trace it back to her. The best way was to get rid of these things and replace them with other treasures. This way, not only would she benefit from it, she would also be able to shift the blame of the Tianyu royal family's treasury. As for the best place to handle the treasures, of course, it was the Black Field. Knowing that the man would not be able to find her so quickly, Luo Qingtong threw the fake 9 Netherworld Phoenix rings all over the place. Then, she disguised herself and entered the Black Region subsidy of an intermediate country on the way as the evil doctor. Anyway, that man already knew that she was the evil doctor. Luo Qingtong wasn't afraid that he would catch her. After all, the other Blackfield players didn't know about it yet. By the time they reported the news of his appearance to that man, he would have already escaped. Luo Qingtong was confident that the people of the Blackfield wouldn't be able to stop her. Naturally, she didn't have any reservations. Of course, the most important thing was that she had stolen a huge amount of treasures from Tianyu's royal treasury. Only her identity as an evil doctor could keep them in check. The theft of Tianyu's royal treasury was an important matter. She could hide it from others but not the people of the Blackfield. Luo Qingtong didn't want to be sold out as a gift to curry favor with Tianyu's royal family. Chapter 249. Hey, did you hear? I don't know which expert Tianyu's royal family offended, but the entire royal family's treasury was emptied. Isn't that so? I heard that the entire treasury has been destroyed. What a pity for the treasures inside. Tianyu's royal family must be crying their eyes out. Ah, that's not the worst part. It was said that at that time, a group of imperial family experts of the Tianyu Empire were cultivating inside and were hit by the attack. Several martial emperors were seriously injured and vomited blood. Are you for real? Someone couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of water and asked, Tianyu's royal family is so miserable? Isn't that so? That's really bad luck. I heard all the alchemists in the royal city were recruited. Oh right, the Earth-class alchemists in the nearby Blackfield City were also invited. In the Blackfield City, a group of people were gossiping enthusiastically. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. Tianyu's royal family was too unlucky. He had just stolen the treasure vault, and now it was being destroyed? The experts of Tianyu's royal family were seriously injured and vomited blood? It can't be that man's doing, right? Luo Qingtong thought to herself. She wasn't thinking too much, but it was too much of a coincidence. Moreover, why would a group of martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family cultivate in the treasury instead of cultivating in seclusion? Were you kidding? The biggest possibility was that they had gathered there to search for clues about him. Luo Qingtong rubbed her chin. The more she thought about it, the more she felt it must be that man's doing. She didn't expect him to help her eliminate a big threat. She didn't help him in vain. On the other side, Little Pig also had the same thought. It must be that man's doing. He could summon the power of heaven and earth and destroy Tianyu's treasury with just a wave of his hand. Other than that man, how could Tianyu's royal family offend such a powerful expert? Needless to say, that man must have helped Luo Qingtong to eliminate future troubles and prevent Tianyu's royal family from finding her. That man was quite considerate of this woman. Thinking of this, Little Pig glanced at Luo Qingtong. In his heart, his regard for Yi Chenxian and Luo Qingtong had deepened by another level. Well, at least he knows how to repay kindness. Luo Qingtong was also very surprised that Yi Chenxian would help her. However, when she thought of the meridian circulation method that she had taught that man before she left, she felt relieved. It was most likely that man's way of repaying her. She didn't expect that man to be so clear about gratitude and grudges. But since that man had solved the problem of Tianyu's royal family, he didn't need to deal with the royal family's treasury anymore. Those treasures could be used as the foundation of the Luo family. With the treasures in the Tianyu treasury, the Luo clan would be able to grow rapidly. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong turned around and walked out of the Blackfield City. She had just entered the city and didn't have time to alert the people in the Blackfield City. Therefore, she left without any burden. However, not long after she left, several figures suddenly appeared not far from where she was. Notify the pavilion that the target has appeared. One of them said in a deep voice. Immediately, someone responded in a deep voice and left. Let's go. Let's follow her. Those people followed in the direction Luo Qingtong left. Chapter 250. There's someone behind us. Little Pig also noticed the rat behind them. Emichim. Luo Qingtong responded in a low voice. Naturally, she also noticed it. Interesting. She had just entered the city and left after hearing some gossip. From beginning to end, she didn't even disturb the people of the Blackfield City. However, these people followed her. Obviously, they had been waiting for her for a long time. She chose to enter the Blackfield City on a whim. In other words, there were probably people like this waiting for her in every Blackfield City. Apart from that man's forces, there were actually other forces that were so powerful? Interesting. Let's go. Don't worry about them. She wanted to see who was the one who was plotting against her behind her back. Luo Qingtong pretended not to know about the existence of these people from beginning to end. She and Little Pig left the Blackfield City without removing their disguises and directly checked into an inn in a nearby city. Book a side courtyard. Luo Qingtong directly booked a side courtyard behind the inn. The manager of the inn looked at the large sum of money that Luo Qingtong gave him and smiled so widely that his eyes could not be seen. He immediately agreed. Guest, do you have any other orders? He asked with a cheerful face. Orders? Luo Qingtong raised her hand and rubbed her smooth chin under the Rakshasa mask. Her lips curved into a mysterious arc. You don't have to send people to ask about me after nightfall. I have a bad temper. If I'm disturbed, someone will have a bloody disaster. Alright, you can keep the extra room money. Just treat it as compensation. What she said was very meaningful. After saying that, she turned around and left. What compensation? The shopkeeper was puzzled when he heard this. However, it was rare to meet a guest who was so generous and didn't need any special service. The innkeeper was very happy and didn't think about it anymore. In the distance, he saw Luo Qingtong had already checked into the inn. The people who followed her immediately retreated quietly. Let's go. Let's go back and have a good sleep. We'll wait for tonight's guest. Luo Qingtong clearly saw these people retreating secretly. She leaned against the wall of the courtyard and stroked Little Pig's fluffy fur with one hand. She smiled wickedly and wantonly. That smile faintly carried the smell of blood. She jumped down from the wall and returned to her room with Little Pig. One person and one pig, incomparably carefree, closed the door and went to sleep. Nightfall. The moon was bright and the sky hung low. Tens of thousands of stars flickered with light, illuminating the land in a snow-white glow. Streaks of blood-red figures appeared in the surroundings of Luo Qingtong's rented house silently. Rays of snow-white light shone from the weapons in their hands. Bang! They jumped into the courtyard and were about to approach the main building of the courtyard and break into it. The next second, boom! A formation suddenly rose around the courtyard, enveloping the entire courtyard in an instant. Amidst the faint silver light of the formation, the door to the main room opened. Luo Qingtong, dressed in red and wearing a Rakshasa mask, strode out from inside. "I've been waiting for you for a long time. You've already eaten your supper. Aren't you a bit too late?" Her neat male attire accentuated the youth's slender waist. Her devilish appearance revealed a peerlessly enchanting charm. Her clear voice coupled with the Rakshasa mask on her face made her look like a soul-reaping emissary from purgatory. Chapter 251. Demonic Physician Ghost Eye. Seeing the demonic youth walk out of the room, the people who had barged into the courtyard were all shocked. They looked at the silver array surrounding the courtyard and looked at Luo Qingtong in disbelief. "You're actually a spiritual array master? Damn it. Why didn't the intelligence report mention this?" Spiritual array masters were as valuable as alchemists. Ordinary people already expended a lot of energy to cultivate. Luo Qingtong's medical skills were extraordinary, but she was also a spiritual array master? Furthermore, this array, the leader of the group glanced at the formation that was closing in on them like a turtle in a jar. His eyes flashed with shock. This array from inside to outside was flawless. Even with his strength, he couldn't see any flaws. How strong was the opponent's array? "It's just a small trick, not worth mentioning. But it's more than enough to deal with you." Luo Qingtong raised her hand and flicked her sleeve. Her eyes were bloodshot as she looked at the group of uninvited guests. With her ability to set up formations, none of the people inside would be able to escape. "Tell me who asked the Supreme Assassin Pavilion to deal with me, and I'll leave you with an intact corpse," she said casually. The opponent's attire was exactly the same as the group of assassins who had attacked Yi Qianxian. The only difference was their strength and the blood blade pattern on their chests. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Someone actually asked the Supreme Assassin Pavilion to deal with her. Interesting. Luo Qingtong felt that her identity as the demonic physician hadn't offended many people. She didn't know who had spent so much money to invite the Supreme Assassin Pavilion. They really thought highly of her. Not to mention that a martial Emperor realm expert was involved in the battle. It seemed that the opponent knew a lot about her. Shameless boasting. They couldn't see through the layout of the array, but as long as they killed Luo Qingtong, the array would break. The leading martial king expert waved his hand and the group charged at Luo Qingtong. 1 inferior grade martial king and 8 upper grade martial marquises. Looking at this lineup, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. "You stay here and watch." After shaking Little Pig to the ground, Luo Qingtong instructed. In the next second she attacked with the life and death yin-yang sword. Shwa! The death blade changed. The pure black sword light was like a waterfall, drawing a cold and beautiful light in the air. Like the reaping light of the Grim Reaper in the dark night, it suddenly attacked. Sword light. Seeing the fierce sword light coming from Luo Qingtong's hand, the group of Supreme Assassin Pavilion's assassins instantly widened their eyes. Before they could react, a blood-curdling scream rang out. In an instant, an upper-grade martial marquis was killed. The sword radiance came out of her body. Luo Qingtong's figure was like the wind, and instantly swept over the entire courtyard. Quick! Retreat! That middle-grade martial king assassin only had time to shout this one sentence before a series of plop 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 sounds came from all around him. In just a few breaths, the 8 upper-grade martial marquises were all killed. In the huge courtyard, only the leading lower-grade martial king expert was left. He looked at all of this with a shocked and dazed expression. Yo. He looked at the blood-red youth in front of him with shock. He only felt that the other party's red clothes were soul-stirring, like a demonic ghost in purgatory that took people's lives. Chapter 252. The opponent's strength was clearly only in the martial general realm. She was actually able to release a sword light that only martial kings could release. She could easily kill a martial lord. How did she do it? Even if the sword in her hand was extraordinary, how did her strength support the release of sword light? The strength of a martial general was simply not enough to release sword light. This martial king realm cultivator did not know that although Luo Qingtong's power was at the martial general realm, she had gone through the life and death yin-yang sword and 9-story exquisite pagoda. Her physique had already reached the level of a martial king realm cultivator. The strength in her body was endless. Although her strength was only in the martial general realm and was slightly weaker, it was enough for her to release sword light and kill these martial lord experts. You don't need to know this. I'll give you another chance. Who asked your supreme assassin pavilion to kill me? Lifting her hand to shake off the dark red blood on the death blade, Luo Qingtong held the dark black sword horizontally with one hand. Her cheeks were slightly tilted, and the sinister Rakshasa mask on her face looked indifferently at the martial king expert. Don't even think about it. Don't think that just because you can release sword light you're really a martial king. The martial king expert was depressed and angry in his heart. After a short period of shock, he quickly recovered and realized that he was actually scared by a martial general. This evil Dr. Gui Tong's methods were truly strange. However, if she thought that this would be enough to scare him, then she was gravely mistaken. Although he was shocked that Luo Qingtong could easily kill the 8 martial lord experts who came with him. However, there was a huge difference between a martial king and a martial lord. These 8 martial lord experts were only brought by him to guard against Luo Qingtong. If they died, then they died. As long as he brought back the target's head, this mission would still be a success. Thinking of this, the martial king expert raised his hand and attacked Luo Qingtong. Seeing him rushing towards her, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. With a snap, the death blade in her hand turned into a life blade in an instant. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them exchanged blows in the courtyard. What is this woman doing? Little Pig, who was lying lazily at the door watching the drama unfold, suddenly stood up with his eyes wide open. It had thought that Luo Qingtong would directly transform into the life and death yin-yang sword, absorb the life blade, and harvest the death blade. Together with the raging flame cut she had obtained from Elder Lu, she would quickly finish off this inferior-grade martial king assassin. But why was this woman fighting with him? Did she forget that I'm not a real martial king? If this went on, the energy in her body wouldn't be able to hold on. After all, the collision of sword lights was extremely exhausting. A true martial king realm expert had a vigorous aura, which was endless and flowed endlessly. He could attack in any way he wanted. But Luo Qingtong's cultivation was only at the martial general realm. Although her power was endless, her quality was far inferior to a real martial king realm. What was this woman up to again? Little Pig was anxious as he recalled Yi Qianxin's order to protect Luo Qingtong. If something really happened to this woman because of this, wouldn't he be skinned alive and have his tendons pulled out the next time he met that man? However, this woman asked him to stay here and watch, not letting him interfere. Really, what was this woman up to again? Don't play me to death. Little Pig was depressed as it paced back and forth on the floor with its 4 little hooves. Chapter 253. Bang! Luo Qingtong's sword light was suddenly shattered. Ah! Evil Dr. Gui Tong. Don't try to be brave if you're not a real martial king. You're dead. Give me your life. The middle-grade martial king was overjoyed. He hurriedly waved his weapon and attacked Luo Qingtong. His attack just now was also very strange. This evil Dr. Ghost I did not have the slightest bit of appearance that a martial general should have. Sword light against sword light, directly clashing with him for more than 10 moves. If it weren't for her aura indicating that she was a martial general, he would have thought that she was a real martial king. Her talent was simply monstrous to the extreme. But now, no matter how monstrous she was doomed. Arrogant and conceited, she was digging her own grave. While the low-grade martial king was shocked and relieved, he didn't show any mercy in his attacks. He directly and viciously attacked to kill. He must kill Luo Qingtong here. This kind of monstrous genius was too terrifying. There was no information about her strength in the pavilion. It could be seen how deep she hid. But this wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was that this monstrous genius was actually a spiritual array master and an alchemist. Both of them were not weak. This was simply terrifying. This woman, she didn't fail miserably, did she? Seeing that the middle-grade martial king's attack was about to hit Luo Qingtong, Little Pig felt that something was wrong. He stomped his hooves and rushed over to help. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's aura suddenly changed. Boom! A wave of air burst out from Luo Qingtong's body. The aura of a 9th-grade martial general changed. It became the aura of a great martial general. It was as if a small bridge suddenly turned into a small river. The aura surging in the river was much more vigorous and cold. Rank up. Great martial general. Thank you for sparring with me. Luo Qingtong smiled wantonly under the Rakshasa ghost mask. When she left that man's side, she had a faint feeling that she was about to make a breakthrough in her cultivation realm. This time, with the help of this inferior martial king realm assassin, he finally made a breakthrough. Perfect promotion. His aura was extremely condensed. As a thank you gift, I'll send you on a painless journey of death. You don't have to thank me when you reach hell. After saying that, Luo Qingtong directly stretched out her hands. Because he had just advanced and filled up his meridians, the aura of power was boiling. In the next second, the unique aura of a great martial general suddenly erupted. First move of the heaven-conquering art, stealing heaven's fortune. It was the tyrannical killing move that Luo Qingtong had learned from Yi Qianxian. This time, without the assistance of the man's aura, Luo Qingtong clearly felt that the power of her move was much weaker. However, this weak was only relative to how she'd annihilated numerous half-saint realm experts with a single strike of her sword. The heaven-conquering art she displayed now, even if she'd only displayed 1/10 of its previous power, was not something that this inferior martial king realm assassin could resist. When Luo Qingtong said that she'd send him to hell, the latter snorted disdainfully. Even if the other party had suddenly advanced to the great martial general realm, she wouldn't be able to easily kill him, let alone send him to hell. However, when he saw Luo Qingtong's move, his eyes widened and filled with disbelief. Unstoppable, unstoppable. What level of move was this? Boom! A dark black sword light flashed. In an instant, the inferior martial king realm expert's eyes widened. He didn't even have time to scream as he fell straight down. Chapter 254. Phew. The moves taught by that man are indeed powerful. This was the first time that Luo Qingtong used her own strength to execute the moves taught by Yi Qianxian. Sure enough, the man's moves were no ordinary moves. She didn't know what level they were. She was only able to execute them with the help of the life and death yin-yang sword, which had just become a great general. Moreover, she was able to kill the inferior martial king realm assassin in one strike. This time, Luo Qingtong didn't have Yi Qianxian's strength in her body. Last time, when she killed Elder Lu, she had to use Yi Qianxian's strength and raging flame slash to kill him. This time, she relied on her own strength to kill him. Moreover, the strength of this inferior martial king realm assassin was even stronger than Elder Lu's. It's good that I met that man this time. I didn't get caught in vain. Luo Qingtong let out a sigh of relief. She put away the life and death yin-yang sword, squinted her eyes and chuckled. This killing move could be used as a trump card. Who would have thought that she, a great general, could kill a martial king realm assassin? It would be great if she could use it to trick people in the future. Woman, you didn't even tell me you were doing something. You almost scared me to death. Little Pig jumped onto her shoulder at this time. It was really scared just now. It thought that this woman had overplayed her hand and failed. You underestimate me too much. Luo Qingtong casually lifted her hand and withdrew the formation around her. Then she flicked Little Pig's pink nose. Do you think I'm you? She had just sensed the possibility of a breakthrough, so she simply used the inferior martial king realm assassin to hone her skills. However, the effect was obviously very good. Luo Qingtong's life blade fought with the assassin while absorbing his strength and integrating it into her own body. This time the promotion was perfect. His foundation was very solid. Even if she didn't use her pupil technique and the man's martial skill, Luo Qingtong could still defeat those of the same level. Supreme Assassin Pavilion. Turning the corpses over, Luo Qingtong searched their bodies. She only found a blank wooden tablet on the body of the inferior martial king realm expert. Other than that, there was nothing that could prove their identities. If Luo Qingtong had not seen a half-saint realm assassin dressed in the same clothes as these people from the Supreme Assassin Pavilion, she would not have known that these assassins were from the Supreme Assassin Pavilion. The security measures were pretty good. Luo Qingtong disposed of the corpses. She was secretly guessing who had hired the Supreme Assassin Pavilion to deal with her. Fortunately, the other party was obviously targeting her identity as an evil doctor, so the Luo family would not be implicated. Luo Qingtong circled a few candidates in her heart, then went straight back to her room and closed the door to sleep. Early the next morning, the waiter who came to ask Luo Qingtong if she wanted to have breakfast, saw the courtyard full of destruction. It was as if a storm had passed through. He was instantly confused and hurried to call the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper hurried over and saw that his own backyard had almost been split in half. Only then did he understand what Luo Qingtong meant by compensation yesterday. Oh my God! Was that guest a professional demolisher? This courtyard had been completely torn down. The shopkeeper, who originally thought that he had made a fortune and cheated a big family, wanted to cry but had no tears. It turned out that the guest was so generous that she wanted him to use the money to repair the house. Fortunately, this guest lived in his own courtyard, not his own inn. Otherwise wouldn't he suffer a great loss? Chapter 255. Dongli Country, Wingay City. The Luo family. Grandfather, why are you being so stubborn? In the courtyard where Old Master Luo lived, Luo Xining appeared in front of Old Master Luo in a purple flowing dress. She was not as gentle as she used to be. Instead, she appeared domineering and arrogant. The Luo family will be mine sooner or later. Luo Xining wore a light-colored veil on her face. She had removed her mask and her eyes were full of ambition. Grandfather, even if you don't admit it, you can't change the fact. She looked at the angry elder Luo with a smile in her eyes. She bowed slightly, opened her hands and twirled in front of elder Luo. Do you see? Grandfather, I'm already a marshal general. And I'm a rank 4 marshal general. I'm an intermediate marshal general. How can Luo Qingtong compare to me? Luo Xining smiled disdainfully. In terms of age, I'm younger than her. In terms of appearance, I'm not much worse than her. In terms of cultivation, she went through life and death in the 9 Magi Mountain and only broke through to the martial master realm. How can it be compared to my rank 4 marshal general? Grandfather, you didn't acknowledge my position in the Luo family and even thought that I stole Luo Qingtong's things. But in this world, hasn't it always been the law of the jungle? I'm stronger than Luo Qingtong. Why should I be below her? You think I stole Luo Qingtong's things? I can tell you now. Without Luo Qingtong's recommendation letter, I can enter the Tianyu Branch Academy with my own strength. As for that armor, treasures have spirits and they belong to the capable. I'm stronger than Luo Qingtong. Of course that armor should belong to me. At this point, Luo Xinning raised her head proudly. I don't want that recommendation letter anymore. But Luo Xining smiled coldly and stroked her fingernails. Even if I don't use it, I won't give it to Luo Qingtong. Isn't it because of her engagement with the 5th prince that she is able to enjoy this special privilege? I'll let the world know that without the protection of the Tianyu royal family, Luo Qingtong is nothing. Grandfather, I have to thank you for this. Luo Xining smiled. If you didn't protect Luo Qingtong and break off the engagement with the Tianyu royal family and humiliate them, I wouldn't have the opportunity today. My current strength is all thanks to you, Grandpa. In the future, when I trample Luo Qingtong to the bottom of the mud, I will definitely not forget Grandfather's deep love for me. Ah. Are you done? If you're done, then get lost. I don't have a granddaughter like you. Grandpa Luo glared coldly at the girl in purple in front of him. He didn't expect Luo Xining. Luo Qingtong. Marshal General Realm. She wondered how much effort Tianyu's royal family had put in to help her improve. Tianyu's royal family had put in a lot of effort just to make things difficult for him and Qingtong. Old Master Luo glanced at the 2 guards beside Luo Xining who were obviously not weak. He suppressed the irritable urge to attack and chased them away rudely. He would not give those who obviously came with ill intentions a chance to attack. However, Luo Xining did not care about what he said. Chapter 256. Luo Xining sneered. Because of her, you offended the royal family of Tianyu and caused the Luo family to be suppressed. All of this is caused by Luo Qingtong. She should be the one to be chased out of the Luo family. Come on. Luo Xining waved her hand. Go to the main yard of the Luo family and throw out all of Luo Qingtong's belongings. Burn them all. Luo Xining sneered in her heart. Previously, when Luo Qingtong came back to establish her dominance, she directly threw the 2nd branch of the Luo family's things out of the main courtyard and burned them. She had always remembered this incident. Now she was going to get it all back. How dare you? How dare you? Old Master Luo was furious. He was worried about the Luo family and did not want to give the people around Luo Xining a chance to attack. However, he did not expect them to be so aggressive and wanted to take over the Luo family and chase Luo Qingtong out of the Luo family. Elder Luo was not going to hold back any longer. He knew what was going on. Luo Xingning came back for the Luo family. She wanted to take over the Luo family? Luo Xingning, a wild girl who married into the Luo family while her mother was pregnant, was not worthy. Elder Luo was furious. He slammed the table and stood up. Without saying anything, he attacked. Bang! The two people beside Luo Xingning were waiting for Elder Luo to attack. The two of them stood out, one on the left and one on the right, shielding Luo Xingning behind them. They also released their chi at the peak of the martial marquis realm and clashed with Elder Luo. How dare a martial marquis attack his own granddaughter? Elder Luo, you are old and confused. Let the young ones take charge of the Luo family. One of them mocked as he suddenly took a step back. That's right. Grandpa, you are old. I think someone else should take charge of the Luo family. For example, my father. Luo Xingning was already prepared for Old Master Luo's attack. The moment Old Master Luo made his move, she immediately dodged backwards. Just as Old Master Luo thought, she came back this time to anger Old Master Luo. She wanted to change the Luo family. It was Old Man Luo's fault for going to the royal family of Tianyu to break off the engagement and angering the Empress and Princess Qi. Stripping the Luo family of their authority was only the first step. It was time for him to vent his anger after so many years. Luo Xiaoning sneered. However, as soon as she finished speaking, a loud rumble resounded. The whole courtyard of the Luo family suddenly shook. In the next second, boom! Amidst a thunderous explosion, the two men who were protecting her and attacking Grandfather Luo were sent flying backward as if they had suffered a heavy blow. Luo Xingning was caught off guard. Before she could react, she was sent flying by the two of them. The three of them flew backward at the same time. With a bang, they directly knocked down the courtyard wall not far away. Luo Xiaoning was in a sorry state. She was pressed to the ground by the two peak martial lords. Her breasts were almost flattened. The pain made her tear up. As for the two peak martial marquis experts on her body, they directly spat out a mouthful of blood. They were obviously badly injured. Elder Luo, who was originally furious, was stunned when he saw this. Around the Luo family, the group of people who were about to attack in secret retracted their auras and hid themselves again. It's the array set up by Master. One of the battle slaves said in a low voice. Indeed. It seems that the relationship between Master and Grandfather Luo is not shallow. We must protect him well. Yes. Chapter 257. In the courtyard, the two martial marquis realm experts also reacted. They supported each other and stood up in a sorry state. They looked at Old Master Luo with a bewildered expression. They did not expect the Luo family to have an array. And it was not weak. Could it be that they were lucky enough to meet a spirit array master? It seemed that they had to go back and make a plan. As they thought about it, their eyes flashed. They looked at each other and did not dare to be presumptuous anymore. They helped each other up and left. Of course, they did not forget to take Luo Xingning with them. Otherwise, with what he had done, he would have been beaten to death by Old Master Luo. Bang! Master Luo wanted to chase after them and make Luo Xingning stay. This woman did not care about anything for her ambition. She would only be a scourge. However, the two martial lords at the peak of the martial lord realm joined forces and took Luo Xingning away. Master Luo was so angry that he slammed the stone table in front of him into two halves. Get Luo Lauer here. He shouted angrily. He wanted to ask Luo Lauer if he knew what Luo Xingning had done. Now that he knew, what should he do? If he wanted that daughter, he would pretend that he did not have a son. Master Luo was furious. On the other side, Luo Xingning was in an extremely difficult position. She was so close to being kept in the Luo family by Master Luo. Looking at the murderous look on his face, how could Luo Xingning not know that if she was really left behind, only death awaited her? What? Why was the heavens so unfair? Why did he give Luo Qingtong all the good things? Grandpa protected her and the fifth prince wanted to marry no one but her. Even the Queen of Tianyu could not do anything about it. She finally had a chance to turn things around and there was a spiritual array master protecting her in the Luo family. Luo Xingning was mad with hatred. She came back this time for the position of the successor of the Luo family. That was why she kept pressuring Master Luo. However, who would have thought that there was an array in the Luo family? When did this happen? Why did she not know about it? Master Luo had been guarding against her all this time. And that Luo Qingtong, she used to be so good to her. In the end, the fact that the Luo clan had an array formation and knew a spiritual array master was actually hidden from her. Luo Xining was furious. Luo Xining. How dare you not tell me that the Luo clan has an array formation? The two experts at the peak of the martial lord realm were extremely displeased. They were ordered by the royal family of Tianyu to protect and help Luo Xining fight against Luo Laozi. However, because of her carelessness, she almost died in the Luo family. When grandfather Luo tried to make them stay, they didn't even dare to fight back. He was afraid that he would have to endure the backlash of the array while enduring Elder Luo's attack. The two of them had never been in such a sorry state before. They immediately looked at Luo Xining with an unfriendly expression. If it weren't for the fact that she was a member of the Luo family and was the most suitable person to deal with Luo Laoi and Luo Qingtong so that Princess Qi and the Empress could vent their anger, they wouldn't have to serve a little girl. Even her strength as a fourth-rank martial general was forcefully raised by the Tianyu royal family using countless precious elixirs and herbs. Under such circumstances, Luo Xining was not of any use. Why did they still keep her around? I don't know. Luo Xining gritted her teeth. Humph. Save your words for yourself and explain it to the higher-ups. The two of them spoke and left, leaving Luo Xining alone in the room with hatred. Chapter 258. Who's there? The two of them were completely unaware that they were being followed. When they left Windgaze City and came to a secluded forest, they suddenly realized there was movement around them. Someone who wants your lives. The battle slaves by Luo Qingtong's side all had the ability to hide their auras after being trained by her. When there was no one around, they revealed themselves and stared coldly at the two of them. These two were peak martial marquises. If they followed Luo Xining, they would inevitably hurt grandfather Luo in the future. Therefore, when they left the Luo residence with Luo Xining, a group of people followed them. Luo Xining was from the second branch of the Luo family. The group of battle slaves did not know the relationship between their master and the Luo family, so they did not dare to act rashly. However, these two people had to be eliminated. How dare they attack old Master Luo? The group of battle slaves was ordered to protect grandfather Luo. If there was a hidden danger that could harm grandfather Luo, they had to eliminate it immediately. Otherwise, how could they bear the consequences of failing their master's orders? Others might not know their master's abilities, but they knew. Boom. As soon as the group of battle slaves appeared, they immediately charged towards the two experts at the peak of the martial marquis realm who were surrounded. How dare you? Who are you? How dare you attack us? Do you know that we are from the imperial family of Tianyu? The two of them did not expect that in a small and remote country like Dongli, there would be a group of martial marquises waiting to kill them. What was going on? In a small and inferior country like Dongli, if there were a few martial marquises, they could not wait to be conferred the title of marquis. This group of people was obviously someone else's subordinates. Seeing the group of battle slaves charging at them, the two peak martial marquises sent by the imperial family of Tianyu were shocked and enraged. Especially when they found out that there were also peak martial marquises and they were not weak, they were even more shocked and enraged. As they dodged, they shouted angrily. However, their words had no effect on the group of battle slaves. The imperial family of Tianyu? The peak martial marquis leading the group looked disdainful. So what? With their master's monstrous talent and medical skills, even the imperial family would treat her as a guest of honor if she did not intentionally hide it. Moreover, with the bloody arena in the Black Field, the imperial family of Tianyu was nothing. You. The two peak martial marquises did not expect the other party to look down on the imperial family of Tianyu. They felt uneasy. Then he looked at the group of battle slaves who were strong and skilled in besieging and attacking without mercy. They didn't look like they came from a small place like the Eastern Fence country at all. He felt even more terrified. They attacked with all their might before turning around to flee. However, they were stopped by a group of battle slaves. Leaving? Since all the battle slaves had made an appearance, they were naturally confident in their ability to annihilate them here. So, all of them immediately erupted with their auras and executed forbidden techniques to forcefully keep them here. They took out the medicinal liquid Luo Qingtong gave them to recover their strength. At the same time, they used the forbidden technique to recover their strength. After doing all this, they turned and prepared to leave. Chapter 259. Haha, look what I found. A group of ants actually have a medicinal liquid that can repair meridians and prevent the backlash from the forbidden technique. Jijie, you can stay here. Tell me the source of that medicinal liquid. As he spoke, a black shadow suddenly flashed out from the darkness of the dense forest. Who is it? Suddenly hearing such a voice, the group of battle slaves were all very vigilant. The expert at the peak of the martial lord realm suddenly made a gesture and prepared to retreat with the group of battle slaves. However, as soon as they moved, a voice rang out. Swish, swish, swish. In the dense forest, countless figures flashed out. At the same time, the corpses of the two peak martial lords that they had just killed suddenly stood up as if they were pulled by something. Jie, what you just said to the two of them, I'll return it to you now. That is, it's too late to leave. This voice was indescribably cold and strange. Against the gloominess of the surrounding dense forest, it made people's hearts tremble. As he spoke, the figures, along with the two experts at the peak of the martial marquis realm who had just been killed, suddenly pounced on them. Puppet. The opponent is a soul master. And a soul master who is very powerful and has a strange soul seal. Go quickly. We can't be caught by him. Seeing the movements of the two peak martial marquis corpses, and then seeing their stiff limbs and ashen complexions, the group of battle slaves were all experienced and knowledgeable people. They immediately reacted. The opponent was a soul master who had a special soul seal. And he was extremely powerful. Just by looking at how he was able to control the two peak martial lords' corpses with a raise of his hand, and the strength he displayed was actually not weaker than when they were alive, they knew that the strength of this soul master was definitely above the martial lord realm. Go quickly. We must inform master about this. The other party actually took a fancy to the medicinal liquid that their master gave them. The battle slaves felt that something was wrong and hurriedly wanted to retreat. However, just as they were halfway through their movements, in an instant, countless thread-like forces mixed in with the attacks of those figures suddenly hit their bodies. Swish, swish, swish. Almost instantly, the bodies of the battle slaves stiffened. They wanted to avoid the attacks of those figures, but they could not avoid these threads at all. Jie. Got it? In the darkness, a ghost-like figure floated out. It was an old man who looked like a dwarf. His wrinkled skin wrapped around his body. Countless strands of power floated around his body like strands of silk. It was this power that froze the group of battle slaves and turned them into uncontrollable statues. Soul King. Sensing the surging power around the other party, the group of battle slaves who couldn't move or speak were filled with shock and horror. You guys don't look like people who possess such a precious medicinal liquid, yet you can actually drink it like water. You don't cherish it. It seems that the person who gave you the medicinal liquid must have a deep relationship with you. Jie. I'll use you guys as puppets first and then lure that person out. As the old man spoke, there was a series of crackling sounds. His bones suddenly stretched and his aura and appearance changed as well. He turned into the appearance of the leading peak martial marquis realm battle slave. He stood there, laughing towards the sky, and suddenly leaped away. The group of battle slaves were under his control and could only be forced to leave with him. However, in their hearts there was a wave of shock and anxiety. Chapter 260. What? The two peak martial marquises are dead? The next day, Luo Xining did not even dare to leave her house after waiting for the two peak martial marquises for a long time. She gritted her teeth and contacted the royal family of Tianyu. She wanted to ask if they were not going to deal with the Luo family and Luo Qingtong. However, she received such a piece of news, which made her shiver. Dead. The two peak martial marquises were dead? They were two peak martial marquises. Not just any Tom, Dick or Harry. Luo Xining could not believe it. However, the royal family of Tianyu gave an affirmative answer. They wanted to ask Luo Xining what was going on. The soul lamps of the two peak martial marquises were extinguished almost at the same time. In the entire eastern border country, who had such great power to silently kill two peak martial marquis realm experts? The royal family of Dongli country might be able to, but they would not dare to do so. I don't know. Luo Xining was flustered by the royal family of Tianyu's question. How could it be? How could it be? The two peak martial marquises died just like that, after they went to the Luo family with her. Wait. Luo Xining's face suddenly stiffened. The two peak martial marquis realm cultivators had disappeared without a trace after going to the Luo clan with her. When did they die? She asked anxiously. The royal family of Tianyu sent her a time. Instantly, Luo Xining could not help but tremble. It's that spiritual array caster. It must be her. Luo Xining screamed in her heart. She had been wondering if the spiritual array caster was really there. Maybe the Luo family got the array by accident. But now, the death of the two peak martial marquises left her with no doubt. How could it be so coincidental? She had just gone to the Luo family to make trouble, and the two peak martial marquises died. Someone must have warned them not to do anything to the Luo family. Spiritual array caster. There was really a spiritual array caster behind the Luo family. Luo Xingning gritted her teeth. At the same time, she knew she could not let the royal family of Tianyu know about this. Otherwise, the other party might not have dealt with the Luo family and Luo Qingtong again. After all, it was just a moment of anger. Going against a spiritual array master was not worth it. Moreover, the fifth prince did not intend to annul his engagement with Luo Qingtong. If they knew that the Luo clan had a spiritual array master backing them up, the Tianyu imperial family would definitely give up and stop bothering the Luo clan. How could this be? Luo Xingning was counting on the royal family of Tianyu to deal with Luo Qingtong and the Luo family. Otherwise, she would have been beaten to death by grandfather Luo for all the things she had done. Thinking of this, Luo Xingning's face turned ugly. Fortunately, the time for Tianyu Branch Academy's recruitment test was just around the corner. As long as she could get through this period of time and enter the Tianyu Branch Academy, no one would be able to do anything to her. Luo Qingtong, I won't let you have an easy time. Since the Luo clan is protected by a spirit array master, if I can't get the Luo clan, then I will destroy it. Luo Xingning's expression was vicious. I don't know what's going on either. But it must have something to do with the Luo family. Maybe there is someone else behind the grandfather. She said half-truthfully. After all, Luo Qingtong's mother was able to cure the fifth prince's innate cold illness. Chapter 261. That's right. Since that's the case, let's start from somewhere else. You won't miss it, right? The man narrowed his eyes at Luo Xingning. Don't forget how the Empress and the seventh princess nurtured you. Once you enter the Tianyu Branch Academy, you will have everything you want. Don't make a mistake. I know. Luo Xingning sneered in her heart. If it was before, she would definitely miss the Luo clan. But now, she couldn't wait for the Luo clan to be completely destroyed. That way Luo Qingtong would lose her backing. Then she would see what she could use to compete with her. As for the Luo clan, after destroying it, she could just build a new one. A Luo clan that belonged solely to her. Luo Xingning raised her head. I will satisfy the Empress and the seventh princess. Very good. The man from the Tianyu imperial family left with satisfaction. After he left, Luo Xingning called for a servant girl with a cold gaze. Go to the Luo clan and call my father. Outside Wingay City, a red figure flashed through the streets like a bolt of lightning. Luo Qingtong hurried along with Little Pig. Not long after, she saw the tracking mark left by the battle slaves. Following the mark, Luo Qingtong entered Nine Magi Mountain. The spirit ship was huge, so the battle slaves must have parked it at Nine Magi Mountain. Luo Qingtong wanted to meet with them and ask about the situation in Wingay City and the Luo clan. While she was at it, she kept the spirit ship. After all, it wasn't good to leave such a big target outside. Luo Qingtong didn't want to attract too much attention. Previously, she had no other choice. Now that she had the useless ring from Little Pig, she could keep the flying ship. Master. The moment Luo Qingtong entered Nine Magi Mountain, a battle slave came to greet her. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows as she looked at the pinnacle martial lord battle slave who had walked out from the dense forest leading to Wingay City. You've been waiting here? Her eyes were empty, but there was a faint flash of blood in them. Yes. This subordinate was afraid that he would miss his master's return, so he purposely waited here. Master, I have an urgent matter to report to you. The battle slave expert at the peak of the martial lord realm said as he approached Luo Qingtong. Oh, is that so? Luo Qingtong stared at him. Through her eye technique, she could clearly see that there was something wrong with the other party's body. Interesting. Luo Qingtong's lips curled into a smile. She sized up this peak martial marquis war slave, and realized that if she did not use her eye technique, his disguise would be flawless. From his aura to his appearance to his figure, there were no flaws at all. This was the first time Luo Qingtong had seen such a disguise technique. It was better than any disguise she had ever seen. If not for her eye technique, she would have been deceived by the other party. Let's go back and talk. Where are the others? Pretending not to notice anything, Luo Qingtong allowed the other party to approach. The others are inside the mountain range. Master, let me take you there. The peak martial marquis expert said as he got closer and closer to Luo Qingtong. When he was 3 meters away from the girl, swish swish swish. Strands of thread-like power suddenly burst out from his body and attacked Luo Qingtong. Seeing the clear threads of power in her eye technique, Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She didn't move from her spot. Ah, got you. Chapter 262. Ah, I didn't expect that the one who refined the medicinal liquid would be such a young and beautiful girl. Good. That shriveled dwarf old man looked at Luo Qingtong's gorgeous face and laughed lecherously. Later, when you've concocted the medicinal liquid that I want, I'll make you want to die. Ah. That old man's laughter was sinister and evil. Looking at Luo Qingtong, his gaze was full of evil intentions. Luo Qingtong looked at him. The blood-red light in her eyes was like a biting cold blade. Her killing intent overflowed in all directions, but she didn't take any action. Swish, swish, swish. That old man's figure flitted. The power of countless silk threads fluttered and pulled Luo Qingtong's figure forward. Luo Qingtong felt the power of those silk threads tighten in her body and pulled forward. She didn't resist and let those silk threads pull her forward. Beside her there were several similar figures. All of them were corpses. Following that old man's movements, they flew out. These corpse puppets were all used by that shriveled dwarf old man to prevent Luo Qingtong from escaping. But he didn't expect that the other party would be so unguarded. Without using them at all, he captured her. Master. In the dark cave, seeing Luo Qingtong being pushed in, the group of battle slave experts were startled and hurriedly cried out. Jejia. I said before, no matter who your master is, I can capture her. That shriveled dwarf old man's voice resounded in the cave. But I didn't expect that the one who could concoct this medicinal liquid would be such a beautiful little girl. Jejia. Little girl, help me concoct a medicinal liquid that can restore the strength of my meridians, and I'll spare you and your subordinates' lives. I'll take you in as my 138th concubine. You won't have to worry about your life anymore. How about it? The shriveled dwarf old man's voice was lewd, and he looked at Luo Qingtong with a lustful gaze. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted Luo Qingtong to help him concoct the medicinal liquid, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to hold himself back from making a move on her. The young girl's face was as beautiful as a flower. She was absolutely gorgeous. Just by standing there, she was like a jade goddess statue. She was beautiful to the extreme, causing people's hearts to itch unbearably. Luo Qingtong didn't say anything. The shriveled dwarf waited for a while before he flew into a rage out of humiliation. Think about it carefully. I'll come back tomorrow for an answer. If you're not satisfied, don't blame me for being ruthless. I have plenty of ways to make you submit. As he spoke, his eyes flashed with a sinister glint as he left. Master. The group of battle slaves looked worriedly at the girl standing in front of them. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong's voice was faint. In her eyes, she could clearly see where those threads of energy had pierced through the acupoints in her body. She could easily remove them. But that old man's strength was the most difficult to deal with. He was a Soul King expert, and he had come for her medicinal liquid. Luo Qingtong thought about how to get rid of this trouble once and for all. Just at this moment, a voice rang out from the corner of the cave. Little girl, you're quite careless. You're still fine? I'll give you a clear path. Whether or not you can cure that old freak Inchi's injuries, don't treat him. Otherwise your end will be extremely miserable. Chapter 263. Sigh. Don't scare the little girl. What difference does it make whether she agrees or not? That sinister Qi is vicious and has countless ways to torture her. In the end, won't she still die? Not to mention her, even we won't be able to escape. As soon as this voice rang out, the other voices instantly stopped. Then a wave of sighs rang out. Sigh. It's fate. If not for the fact that we were severely injured when we fought against the divine sky-connecting beast, we wouldn't have been subdued by that sinister Qi. Who would have thought that he would be so sinister and attack us all of a sudden? That's right. Sigh. This trip to the Nine Magi Mountain is really not worth it. We didn't get anything and we even lost our lives. Who would have thought? There was actually a divine sky-connecting beast in the immortal sect ruins. These people's words instantly attracted Luo Qingtong's attention. Through her eye technique, she could clearly see that there was a group of people in the corner of the cave. These people had unkempt hair and dirty faces. They did not care about their appearance and looked extremely miserable. However, the weakest of these people was actually an inferior martial king. Among them there were even 2 peak martial kings. However, they were all severely injured. Not only that, their bodies were also penetrated by the power of the threads. They had no strength to resist at all. Luo Qingtong looked at these people and blinked her eyes. Could it be that these people had rushed in to try their luck when the 9 Magi Mountains Immortal Slayer Palace appeared? In the end, they were severely injured by the divine sky-connecting beast? Luo Qingtong remembered that when the divine sky-connecting beast appeared, it had chased after her for a long time. Later on, it had a huge battle with that man. These people might have been caught in the crossfire during the process. Then they were also quite unlucky. The divine sky-connecting beast was so powerful. Except for that man, the others would have died if they came close to it. It was already good enough that they were only injured. However, that sinister chi had taken advantage of them. Luo Qingtong felt a headache for them. However, this had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. She was thinking of how to deal with this sinister chi from these people's words. Luo Qingtong knew that this sinister chi was a superior martial king. A soul king was already stronger than a martial king of the same rank. Moreover, old monster Yin Chi was a soul king expert with a special soul seal. Her strength was even stronger than an ordinary peak martial king expert. His strength was comparable to a powerhouse who had just entered the martial royal realm. After these people were injured by the shockwaves from Yi Qianxin's and the divine connecting beast's attacks, they encountered the equally injured Yin Chi old monster and were immediately subdued by her. Although the power of the threads on old monster Yin Chi's body could not completely control their movements like it could control low-level martial artists, but it was still able to seal their strength. The group of people were kept as food reserves for old monster Yin Chi. Every once in a while, a person would be killed to maintain old monster Yin Chi's strength. Of the dozens of people in the group, only a dozen or so were left. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. A high-class soul king. This was a little troublesome. If he couldn't kill her in one blow, the other party would definitely react immediately. At that time, they would use the power of those threads to control the corpse puppets to attack. Luo Qingtong would inevitably be besieged. Moreover, the other party's soul king's strength was also quite good. No wonder the status of a soul master in the true Spill continent was much higher than that of a martial artist. Their combat strength was not on the same level. At the same rank, a soul master powerhouse with a soul seal was much more powerful than a martial artist. Luo Qingtong frowned as she pondered. An idea slowly formed in her mind. At this moment, a battle slave powerhouse's voice sounded. Chapter 264. When Luo Qingtong heard this, she raised her head and saw a group of battle slave experts looking at her. Master, we've been controlled by the other party, we definitely can't escape. If it weren't for us, you wouldn't have been caught. When we self-destruct, you should quickly leave. With your strength, you'll definitely be able to escape. These battle slave experts felt extremely guilty. If it weren't for their carelessness and old monster Ghastly Puppet discovered the medicinal liquid that Master had given them, they wouldn't have been caught and wouldn't have implicated Master. Now that they had made a big mistake, they didn't have any chance of survival anyway. It was better to help Master escape with all their strength. The group believed that if old monster Ghastly Puppet hadn't transformed into their appearance, Master wouldn't have been fooled and wouldn't have been caught. Especially the peak martial lord expert, he felt even more guilty and looked at Luo Qingtong with an indescribable determination. This suggestion was made by him. He was originally prepared to self-destruct, but the others all agreed and it became their collective action. Luo Qingtong looked at them, but before she could speak, the voices of the martial kings rang out. Oh, you're quite loyal to protect Master. I advise you to stop daydreaming. The power of the soul seal isn't ordinary power, it's sealed in the human body, it's impossible for you to make any movements of your own will. It's impossible for you to self-destruct. That's right. You all, these low-level martial artists, have too little experience. If we could self-destruct, we would have done it long ago. Why wait for death here? You'd better save your strength. Don't, what? Before the martial emperor realm experts finished their words, they suddenly raised their heads. They looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong in shock. They saw the young girl raise her hand to pat the dust off her body and tidy up her robe while she was at it. Her pair of dark and empty eyes indifferently looked at them. Oh, daydreaming? You? The group of martial kings stared at Luo Qingtong in shock and sluggishness, completely unable to understand what was going on. How did this young girl, who was clearly only a great general, do it? Could it be that when old monster Ghastly Puppet let her in, he didn't use his soul power to control her? It must be so. Otherwise, just as everyone was thinking this, they saw Luo Qingtong walk in front of a group of battle slave experts and raise her hand to slap them one by one. Pa pa pa. Everyone who was slapped by her felt their bodies tremble violently. The power of the threads that penetrated their bodies were instantly sent flying. Without anyone controlling it, the power of the soul imprint was easily dispersed by Luo Qingtong. Not a trace of power remained in the bodies of the battle slaves. In an instant they regained control of their bodies. We can move now. After moving their muscles and bones and feeling that they had regained control of their bodies, the group of battle slave experts were pleasantly surprised. They looked at Luo Qingtong with even more shock and awe. Master was indeed more powerful than usual. They originally thought that this was a life and death situation, but they didn't think that their master would easily resolve it. Looking at her master's nonchalant attitude, she couldn't have been caught on purpose before, right? Was it to save them? The group of battle slave experts were very moved. Master, let's get out of here quickly. After releasing the control of their bodies, the group of battle slaves hurriedly said. Okay. A bloody light flashed in Luo Qingtong's eyes. The light in her eyes glanced at the martial kings who were already stunned in the corner of the cave, and she turned to leave. Chapter 265. Wait, little friend. Wait. They hurriedly called out to Luo Qingtong. These martial king experts were already stunned by Luo Qingtong's actions. Old Freak Yin Chi's soul imprint was not something that an ordinary person could remove. With the strength of an upper-level soul king expert, one had to be at least a peak soul king or even a martial emperor expert to completely force the soul imprint out of the body. Otherwise, it was impossible to see the location of the soul imprint in the body. But Luo Qingtong easily did it. This was still a little girl in the great martial general realm. The group of martial king experts no longer cared about how Luo Qingtong did it. They only knew that Luo Qingtong could help them break away from old Freak Yin Chi's control. They no longer had to be lambs waiting to be slaughtered. This matter was more important than anything else. As for how this little girl did it, didn't old Freak Yin Chi say that she was an alchemist? She could also refine medicinal liquid that could repair meridians. Although when they heard it before, they felt that old Freak Yin Chi was desperate to find a doctor and randomly found a silly little girl to help him. But now that they saw Luo Qingtong's ability, they believed it. This girl must be a very powerful alchemist. Maybe she used some special method to remove those puppet threads. In short, it was fine as long as she could remove the soul imprint. God knows they were about to go crazy being trapped here. Little friend, saving a life is better than building a 7-floor pagoda. At the same time, we are old Freak Yin Chi's enemies. As the saying goes, the enemy of an enemy is a friend. Little friend, please save us. When we get out of danger, we will naturally reward you. Yes, little friend. Since you can remove that old freak's puppet technique, why don't you remove it for us? That old freak is outside. If you run out like this, it's inevitable that he will find you and hunt you down. With us here, it'll be easier to deal with him. The group of people tried their best to persuade Luo Qingtong. When they called out to Luo Qingtong, the girl's lips curled up. She was waiting for these people to stop her. I'll save you? She turned around and suppressed the smile on her lips. Her dark and empty eyes looked in their direction. Without one ghastly puppet old monster, will it attract a bunch of ghastly puppet old monsters? As she spoke, she glanced at them meaningfully. Even though she couldn't see, everyone felt as if she was sweeping her gaze over them. Your strength is not weaker than that old ghastly puppet. How do I know that after you deal with that old ghastly puppet, you will not turn around and deal with me? Luo Qingtong snorted. I can escape the control of old Freak Yin Chi's threads, and I can also escape from him. So why should I save you? What if I save a bunch of ingrates? Wouldn't I be asking for trouble? The group was instantly speechless by Luo Qingtong's question. That's right. There was no need for this little girl to save them. She had already removed the power of those threads, and as long as she was careful not to attract the attention of old Freak Yin Chi, she could easily escape. There was no need for her to save them. On the contrary, saving them would easily lead to trouble in the future. However, they were waiting for Luo Qingtong to save them. Otherwise, when old Freak Yin Chi reacted and saw that Luo Qingtong and the rest had escaped, it would be strange if he didn't vent his anger on them. Thinking of this, the group of people became anxious. Just then Luo Qingtong's voice slowly rang out. Chapter 266. Little friend, say it. Hearing that there was a chance, the group of people immediately said, That's right. As long as we can do it, we will absolutely agree. Yes, yes. The group of people hurriedly nodded their heads. They originally thought that Luo Qingtong was unwilling to save them. The group of people was speechless, not knowing how to persuade Luo Qingtong. After all, they also didn't know how to make Luo Qingtong believe that they wouldn't turn against her. Seeing that the other party showed signs of agreeing, they naturally agreed regardless of the consequences. Anyway, no matter what the conditions were, it was better than losing their lives. But when Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, they were immediately dumbfounded. Didn't you guys say that yourselves? As long as you can do it, you will agree to any conditions? Luo Qingtong looked at them, the corners of her lips curled up into a smile. In that case, make a vow to the heavens and earth, and recognize me as your master. The girl looked at them with a smile. The smile on her lips was 3 parts delicate and 7 parts evil. I will become your master, your life and death, I will naturally not ignore it. As for my secret, you will not leak it. This is the only way I can accept. It is also the only way I can be sure that you will not harm me. You can choose for yourselves. When Luo Qingtong said this, the smile on her lips didn't change, but her voice became cold little by little. Those who recognize me as their master live. Those who are stubborn die. Luo Qingtong would only save 2 kinds of people. One was the people she wanted to save, the other was the people she thought were her own people. Since these trapped Martial King experts were not the first kind, they could only be the second kind. This is impossible. The group of Martial King experts didn't expect Luo Qingtong to make such a request. A little girl of the great general realm actually wanted to take a group of Martial King experts as her servants? This was really ridiculous. You are really going too far. We will not agree. A group of Martial King experts were proud and arrogant. How could they tolerate being under a little girl of the great general realm? This was absolutely impossible. Immediately, someone fiercely retorted. Since that's the case, then you can wait for death here. Let's go. Seeing that they didn't agree, Luo Qingtong didn't care. Although she was waiting for these people to call out to her, she would never let them see through her thoughts. This would be a competition to see who was more impatient. What he wanted was a chance to kill old freaking Qi, but what these people wanted was a chance to live. They would definitely give in. Luo Qingtong ignored them and led the group of battle slave experts out. The latter and the rest were very quiet. Even when they heard Luo Qingtong mention the condition of taking in these Martial King experts as servants, no one exclaimed. From their point of view, Luo Qingtong wanting to take these people as servants was really a great opportunity for these people. These people don't know how powerful Master is. Otherwise, she would have cried and begged her master to take her in as a servant. Are Martial Kings very powerful? That's because Master hasn't fully grown yet. As early as when she was in the Martial General realm, Master had already killed an early-stage Martial King. What are these people? Only they would take themselves seriously. The group of battle slave experts glanced at them coldly and followed Luo Qingtong, preparing to leave. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Chapter 267. Little Friend. Wait. Little Friend. A middle-level Martial King realm expert stopped Luo Qingtong. The next second, he gritted his teeth and said, I agree. Damn. Lunatic. You're really crazy when I call you a lunatic? Why did you agree? It's not certain if such a little girl at the great Martial General realm can escape from the pursuit of old monster Yin Qi. She definitely needs us. You actually agreed to her. Among the group of Martial King realm experts, someone suddenly cursed. You know nothing. What if she can really escape? The middle-level Martial King realm expert retorted, I'm not like you who cares about this and that. I'm all alone and I'm a lone wolf. She can save me, so what if I recognize her as my master? Staying alive is more important than anything else. This middle-level Martial King realm expert was very straightforward. He didn't have a family to burden him, nor did he have any power behind him. It was nothing to recognize Luo Qingtong as his master. Wasn't it just having one more person working for her? It was better than losing his life. His words immediately attracted many people's attention. Especially since Luo Qingtong had already subdued this lunatic and didn't lack Martial King realm experts around her. If they really left like this, they were really dead. Compared to their lives, everything else was really nothing. Wasn't it just losing their freedom? Immediately after this middle-level Martial King realm expert agreed, several other Martial King realm experts who were also independent and didn't belong to any sect or power also agreed. These people's agreement immediately made the rest of the people unable to sit still. especially the two Peak Martial King Realm experts. After seeing that half of the people had agreed, one of the Peak Martial King Realm experts had an unsightly expression and finally agreed. In this way, only one Peak Martial King Realm expert and the other 4 superior-level Martial King Realm experts were left. They looked at Luo Qingtong and the group of Martial King Realm experts who had already made an oath to heaven and earth to recognize her as their master. Their faces were full of disdain. At this moment, Luo Qingtong approached them. The 5 people thought that Luo Qingtong was trying to persuade them, so they immediately snorted disdainfully and closed their eyes. However, the next second, with a poochie sound, the long sword pierced into the flesh. The expert at the peak of the Martial King realm instantly opened his eyes and stared at Luo Qingtong. You. He wanted to say something but was pushed away by Luo Qingtong. Bang! His body fell to the ground, dying with his eyes wide open. This Peak Martial King realm expert had never imagined that Luo Qingtong would dare to kill him. He had the power of old monster Ghastly Puppet's soul imprint in his body. It was not a big deal to remove it silently like Luo Qingtong, but killing him would definitely attract old monster Ghastly Puppet's attention. But Luo Qingtong killed him without hesitation. Didn't she want to escape? The other 4 superior-level Martial King realm experts? Luo Qingtong shook off the blood on the life and death yin-yang sword and did not even look at them. Kill? Yes. Before the other Martial King realm experts could react, a group of battle slave experts flew over and directly killed the 4 upper-class Martial King realm experts who wanted to beg for mercy in a hurry. They didn't need to ask the reason for their master's order. However, those Martial King realm experts who were still under control and had already recognized Luo Qingtong as their master started to panic. Chapter 268. That's why I want him to sense it. Luo Qingtong's voice was indifferent. She had never thought of escaping from the start. The reason why she wanted to leave was just to put on an act for these Martial King experts to see. Otherwise, why would they panic and acknowledge her as their master? Luo Qingtong wanted to borrow their strength to kill old monster Yin Qi, but to prevent them from rebelling, she naturally had to control them. As for the 5 people who refused to submit, they were already at that stage and still refused to submit. They must have other ideas. For example, after they left, they would alert old monster Yin Qi and sell their information to old monster Yin Qi, then rely on him to hunt them down. How could Luo Qingtong give them the chance to sell her out? These people were too simple-minded. Did they think that her goal was only to escape? Old monster Yin Qi had seen her true face and coveted her medicinal liquid and her person. How could she ignore such a huge hidden danger? Of course she had to kill him. From the very beginning, these trapped Martial King realm experts had been wrong. What? When the group of Martial King experts heard this, they were instantly dumbfounded. Wasn't Master's idea to escape? She had purposely lured old monster Yin Qi to a great martial general. Could it be that she wanted to kill him? Just as the group was thinking this, they saw Luo Qingtong take out a few bottles of medicinal liquid and hand them to the battle slave experts beside her. Let them drink it. Listen to my orders later and attack old monster Yin Qi. No way. Was Master really going to attack old monster Yin Qi? That was an upper-class Soul King expert. Although his meridians were damaged and his strength had decreased, if he were to disregard everything and explode, he would still be very powerful. With that special soul seal and the ability to control puppets, it would not be a problem for him to fight against them. Even if all of them recovered their strength, they might not be able to make him stay. Furthermore, Master had not removed the control of those soul seals for them. Master, what are you trying to do? Sensing old monster Yin Qi's aura rapidly approaching, the group of trapped Martial King experts were about to cry. They recognized Luo Qingtong as their master because they wanted to live. However, Luo Qingtong's way of playing scared them. What are you afraid of? I won't let you die. Luo Qingtong took out the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding tree. With a few rustling sounds, the soul power of the 5 Martial King realm experts who had just died was sucked out and disappeared into the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding tree with silent screams. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows when she sensed that the 1,000-year soul guiding tree's core had absorbed the 5 people's soul power and transformed it into some power. Not bad. This little bit of power was enough for her to use a killing move that surpassed the one she had used to kill the killer in the inferior Martial King realm. But this was still not enough. Old monster Yin Qi's strength was comparable to an ordinary martial emperor. Even if his meridians were damaged, he would not be easy to deal with. Luo Qingtong still needed the help of these Martial King realm experts to create opportunities. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Luo Qingtong's figure flashed, and in an instant she had set up a formation in this cave. After doing all this, she raised her eyes and motioned for the battle slave experts to stand still. They also pretended to be controlled and stood there. The group of martial king realm experts trembled with fear as they watched. Not for anything else, but for the sake of the authenticity of the act, Luo Qingtong did not remove the puppet threads in their bodies. When old monster Yin Qi came, wouldn't he control them at any time? Chapter 269. The group of martial king realm experts shouted in their hearts as they bitterly recovered their strength passively. The medicinal liquid that Luo Qingtong gave them was of the best quality. Almost the moment it entered their mouths, it began to recover their strength. Like old monster Yin Qi, these people's meridians were more or less injured by the attack of the heaven-connecting divine beast. But under the effect of Luo Qingtong's medicinal liquid, these meridians' injuries were rapidly healing. Some of the people who had used the restrictive spell had the traces of the backlash in their bodies slowly disappearing. They were extremely shocked. They did not expect Luo Qingtong's refining ability to be so powerful. But no matter how powerful her refining ability was, it could not be converted into fighting strength. What's more, Luo Qingtong was just a little girl who had just entered the great general realm. What could she do against old monster Yin Qi? Their lives were all tied up with Luo Qingtong. If the other party died, they would also die with him. The group of people was thinking in their hearts when old monster Yin Qi, who sensed that something had happened here, quickly appeared in the cave. What's going on? Suddenly discovering the corpses of the 5 martial king realm experts, old monster Yin Qi's face suddenly turned cold. He immediately looked at the bodies of the other martial king realm experts. When he saw that the puppet threads around their bodies were still there, he suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that these people were not out of control. At this time he did not pay attention to Luo Qingtong and the others at all. After all, a group of martial marquis realm experts plus a great general realm beauty. Even if they all attacked together, he could easily kill them. There was no need to care at all. However, the moment he relaxed his mind, swish! Luo Qingtong, who had been standing there silently, suddenly raised her hand. Before the group of martial king realm experts could react, they felt the power of the threads around their bodies suddenly being pulled out. With a swish, they regained control of their bodies. The power in their bodies burst out at once. Do it. Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. As early as when she had just set up the formation, she had already pulled all the threads in the bodies of these martial king realm experts into her hands. At this moment, with a sudden pull, everyone immediately regained their strength and control of their bodies at the same time. This was much better than removing their control in advance and making old monster Yin Qi suspicious and on his guard. Swish swish swish. After breaking free of control, the group of martial king realm experts instantly reacted and immediately rushed towards old monster Yin Qi in the middle of the cave. Old monster Yin Qi's face was full of shock and anger. He did not expect martial king realm experts to break free from his puppet thread's control. Seeing these martial king realm experts rushing over, the power of the silk threads around his body fluttered, and he was about to seal them again. At the same time, he hurriedly ordered the zombies guarding outside to rush in. Light. In an instant, the zombies that had been ordered to charge in were blocked outside. Luo Qingtong's clear and cold voice rang out. Left team, front 4, right team, back 8, left team, front 8 steps. Luo Qingtong spoke so fast that the group of martial king realm experts did not react at first. Then they suddenly realized that Luo Qingtong was teaching them how to walk. They immediately did as she said. Swish. Chapter 270. The power of those threads had all landed on empty air. Following Luo Qingtong's voice, the martial king realm experts had easily evaded the power of those threads that old monster Yin Qi had shot out. It was as if they had appeared in another space as they walked. The power of those threads had clearly passed through their location, but they themselves were not affected in the slightest. Illusory space. Old monster Yin Qi suddenly cried out when he saw this. He seemed to have some understanding of formations, and he immediately understood what was going on when he saw this scene. Luo Qingtong had used a formation to create another independent space in this cave. This space would change according to the changes in the formation. Apart from Luo Qingtong, the person who had set up the formation, no one else would be able to see through this space unless their formation skills were stronger than Luo Qingtong's. It was even more impossible to control and harm the people inside through this space. However, what old monster Yin Qi could not understand was how Luo Qingtong had seen through the power of his threads. After all, a relatively independent space meant that both sides would not touch each other. He could not harm the Martial King Realm experts and they could not harm him either. Therefore, if the Martial King Realm experts wanted to deal with him, they would have to come out from that space. How had Luo Qingtong managed to make them enter the space in time when he had sent the power of his dancing threads over? Old Monster Enrich could not understand. At this moment, he would never have thought that Luo Qingtong would be able to clearly see through the power of the threads that had enveloped his entire body. Therefore, when he had attacked, Luo Qingtong had been able to timely remind the Martial King Realm experts to enter the space that had been opened up by the formation. Rumble. With Luo Qingtong's assistance, the Martial King Realm experts were instantly like tigers that had grown wings. After this experience, they finally understood that not only could Luo Qingtong remove the control of Old Monster Ghastly Puppet's Soul Seal, she could also see through Old Monster Ghastly Puppet's Soul Seal attacks. As such, what do they need to be afraid of? Previously, they were afraid of Old Monster Enrich only because the other party's puppet threads were terrifying. It was impossible to guard against them and they were controlled in an instant. It should be known that even if the strength of both sides were similar, they would not be controlled by Old Monster Enrich like other low-level cultivators and become puppets under the control of the power of the Soul Seal. However, losing control of their bodies in that instant was enough to cause them to lose the initiative in the battle, allowing Old Freak Enrich to gain the upper hand. Now that the latter had lost this powerful killing move, Old Monster Ghastly Puppet was no different from an ordinary martial king. Moreover, the meridians in his body were damaged. He couldn't display his full strength. Ah! Old Freak Enrich, to think that you would have such a day. The group of people who had fallen into the hands of Old Monster Enrich had suffered quite a bit of torture. At this moment, when they saw that the other party had completely lost the arrogance from before, their fighting spirit instantly erupted as they attacked Old Monster Enrich. In an instant he was beaten to the point that he was in dire straits, battered and exhausted. All that was left of his arrogance was his head and face covered in dirt. You stinking woman. It's all your fault. At this moment Old Monster Enrich finally reacted, no matter how stupid he was. This was all because of Luo Qingtong. If I don't kill this woman, I may very well die here. After all, my corpse puppets can't enter and the power of the Soul Seal threads is unable to control these martial kings. As he thought of this, he forcefully withstood the attacks of the martial kings and charged towards Luo Qingtong. Chapter 271. Old Monster Enrich's expression was sinister. He didn't care about the injuries to his meridians and burst out with a power that was enough to tear them apart. The power of those threads floated around him. If the group of Martial King experts got too close to him, they would be controlled. Suddenly, he rushed out of the encirclement. Seeing him rush towards Luo Qingtong, the group of Martial King experts suddenly cried out in alarm. Master, be careful. After this series of events, the group of Martial King experts was already convinced of Luo Qingtong's strength. Moreover, they had already sworn an oath to the heavens and earth to submit to Luo Qingtong. The word master naturally came out of their mouths. The group of battle slave experts who were guarding Luo Qingtong were even more anxious. They stood in front of Luo Qingtong and used their bodies to protect Luo Qingtong. Master! Get out of the way. Luo Qingtong's voice was deep. Suddenly, a powerful aura surged out from her body, pushing away the group of battle slave experts who had rushed in front of her. No one dared to make a move against her and could only passively let her push them away. Master! Seeing this scene, the group of Martial King experts and battle slave experts instantly became anxious. No matter how powerful their master was, she was only a great martial general. Even if Luo Qingtong was an immortal, it was impossible for a great martial general to fight against a high-class Soul King expert. Even Little Pig, who was squatting on Luo Qingtong's shoulder and preparing to attack, was shocked. He knew that Luo Qingtong had killed a low-class martial king expert before. But a low-class martial king and a high-class Soul King couldn't be compared at all. At that time, Luo Qingtong had used almost all of her trump cards to kill that low-class martial king. This Old Monster Enrich was an outstanding high-class Soul King expert. Now that he had released the aura of a forbidden technique, his strength was even higher. She simply couldn't be his opponent. Was this woman's ego inflated because everything had gone too smoothly for her? Little Pig stomped on the ground. He really wanted to use his two little hooves to hug Luo Qingtong's face and shake it with all his might to wake her up. There were many experts in this world. It was not as simple as she thought. She mustn't be too complacent and play herself to death. Oh my God! The little bit of power that I had saved with great difficulty. I'm going to squander it all again. Little Pig's heart was filled with grief and indignation as he watched the ghastly puppet old monster approach. Was it easy for it to secretly save up a little power to improve itself? It was going to be used up again. But for this woman he had no choice but to use it. Otherwise, if that man came knocking and found out that something had happened to this woman, just thinking about it made her feel like she had nothing left to live for. While Little Pig was feeling depressed, Luo Qingtong concentrated all her mental power into her eyes. She didn't know how to use the power of the soul imprint, but Luo Qingtong was very clear on how to use her eye's special ability. In her dark red eyes that flickered with a bloody light, she was able to clearly see the strength of the ghastly puppet old monster, including his weak points. If the ghastly puppet old monster wasn't injured, Luo Qingtong wouldn't necessarily be able to seize the opportunity to attack. Even if she did, she wouldn't necessarily be able to break through. However, old monster ghastly puppet's meridians had already been injured previously. Then, under the siege of a group of Martial King realm experts, he had used a forbidden technique to withstand their attacks, adding injuries on top of injuries. Someone had already broken open a hole in a hard walnut for him, and even stabbed a knife into it. At this time, what did he need to do? Chapter 272. Swish. A dazzling black light suddenly lit up in Luo Qingtong's hand. The life and death dual rights sword instantly appeared in her hand and transformed into the death blade state. In the next second, Luo Qingtong suddenly took a step forward with the heart of the thousand-year soul guiding tree in her hand. Boom! In the heart of the thousand-year soul guiding tree, the power transformed from the souls of the 5 Martial King experts was instantly absorbed by her. At the same time, the death blade in Luo Qingtong's hand was placed horizontally. The power around her body quickly boiled and gathered towards the death blade in her hand. That ferocious and berserk power suddenly transformed into a crescent-shaped sword light, rushing towards old monster Yin Qi, whose eyes had suddenly widened. Heaven-conquering art. Heaven-seizing style. What? Looking at the sword light that was completely unlike what a great martial general could produce, old monster Yin Qi's ferocious face was full of shock. Sword light. This is a sword light that can only be produced by a martial king. And this attack is already enough to kill a mid-level martial king. This woman, how did she do it? However, this power is still not enough. I am an upper-level soul king expert. This time, the power of a forbidden technique has erupted. This woman, does she think she can kill me like this? Ah, what a joke. Wait till I capture her, I must torture her thoroughly. I have never ravaged such a genius girl before. I must make her suffer unbearably and live a life worse than death. She dared to scheme against me. Old monster Yin Qi's face was ferocious. In an instant he reacted and thought to himself. Looking at Luo Qingtong, his eyes regained their previous complacent and unfriendly light. Stinking woman, you have some ability. But this attack can't do anything to me. He looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. Under the shocked gazes of the Martial King realm experts and battle slaves, he faced Luo Qingtong's attack and pounced at her with a shrill cry. Break this attack, capture this woman and break this formation. When the time came he would kill everyone here. Ah! Old monster Yin Qi's face was extremely ferocious. The smile on his face twitched like a ghost. Master. The group of Martial King realm experts and battle slave realm experts also recovered from the powerful sword ray that Luo Qingtong had just brandished and recklessly rushed forward. Master's attack may be powerful, but it's not enough against a high-class soul king like old monster Yin Qi. But just as they were thinking this, they heard old freak Yin Qi, who was rushing towards the sword beam, suddenly let out a sharp cry. That cry was incomparably miserable. Before the crowd could react, they saw the sword beam slash open old monster Yin Qi's body. Oh! Old monster Yin Qi's eyes bulged. Never had he imagined that there was actually an attack mixed within that sword light. In an instant, it struck the spot where he had been injured by the divine sky-connecting beast's power. How was this possible? That injury had long been healed by him. From the surface, it was impossible to tell that he had been injured. How did the other party know where the wound was? And it had accurately hit that spot. In an instant, it had ignited the power of the divine sky-connecting beast. Yo. Old monster Yin Qi looked at Luo Qingtong in shock, full of disbelief. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.